Welcome everybody to another episode of Fins Nation. I am your host Louis Sung, and today, what else are we going to talk about except the fact that the Miami Dolphins defeated the Los Angeles Chargers, their season opener, 36-34. Fins Nation, this was a game to remember, and it is a game that may just set the tone for the entire rest of the season. Before we get any further into this, I just want to go ahead. I'm going to play a clip straight from Tua Tagovailoa's mouth himself right after the game was over. I want you guys to hear this, and I want you guys to be excited, and I want you guys to feel the love coming from the Miami Dolphins quarterback. Just listen to this real quick.
I really wasn't, because last year I felt like it was sort of similar to this year. We had a lot of Dolphins fans come to the last year's game. But yeah, like shout out to the Fins Nation. I mean, they were probably just as loud, if not a little louder than the Chargers' home team. And that could have made all the difference as well for their communication. So shout out to Fins Nation.
You contributed to that, Fins Nation. You should all be proud of yourselves for how you represented. I know for a fact that a good friend of mine, Ian Berger, otherwise known as Big E, and a whole bunch of Miami Dolphins fans went up there to SoFi Stadium. They were cheering on the team. Tua heard y'all, and guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He responded in a way that even I did not expect. I was expecting the Dolphins to do a lot better against the Chargers in the offensive side of the ball, just because Tua's in year 2 of the offense. I was expecting that he had learned a lot from last year's game, and the fact that Vic Fangio, he was the one who helped teach Brandon Staley everything that he knows. I was expecting it to be better. Not what we saw against the Chargers on Sunday. I'm going to get into everything, and I'm going to tell you all about what my feelings are regarding everything. Most of which is going to be about Tua, I won't lie. There are some other things that I want to talk about as well, but this is mostly just going to be a Tua-centric show. So buckle up, y'all. I got a lot of stuff to say. But before that, as always, we just want to go ahead and mention that this show is brought to you by our good friends over at PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is a revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, one of each. It's up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat. They give you free squares, such as the Dak Prescott square that happened just a couple days ago. You can go ahead and keep an eye out for those in the future. They have Taco Tuesday promos for discounted props, and of course my favorite, Flex Friday specials, where you can get your money back if you lose or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. With offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you are any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use that promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Get this promo code 5, FIVE. Go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with and get started winning today. This show is also brought to you by our friends over at You Brake Wheel Fix. You Brake Wheel Fix is the complete automotive wheel solution. Ever parked too close to the sidewalk curb? You Brake Wheel Fix specializes in the repair of damaged wheels from bends, cracks, and curb rash. Or maybe your wheels are faded or peeling. You don't need to replace them, as You Brake Wheel Fix can refinish them to like new. Offering complete refinish options through powder coating, machining, and polishing, You Brake Wheel Fix is the answer to all of your wheel needs. And of course, they give you special customization options like performance upgrades, window tinting, suspension modifications. You can reach Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or online at youbrakewheelfix.com, or you can reach out to them on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can get an estimate in just minutes. Just reach out to them. So start customizing your ride. Show off your Dolphins fandom, which, by the way, you have a lot to show off today. And one more thing, just real quick, a new sponsor for the show. Big thank you to Biscayne Bay Brewing for hosting the 5 Reasons Sports Watch Party this past Sunday. It was an amazing time for everybody. They are the first and only brewery in downtown Miami. They're independent and locally owned. They are the official craft beer of the Miami Marlins and an individual brewing partner of the Miami Heat. So you guys are going to be having an awesome time watching games at that location. So make sure you check that out. Biscayne Bay Brewing, big thank you to them. And of course, thank you for sponsoring the 5 Reasons Sports Network and Fins Nation. All right, so let's just get into this right here, right now. There is so much stuff that I want to talk about. I'm going to pull up this box score right now because I just need to remind everybody what an incredible performance this was. But I'm sure everybody remembers. I don't think anybody truly realizes, though, what kind of a story this is. Tua Tagovailoa, the man that everybody was maligning, the guy that Stephen A. Smith was making fun of not 2 days prior, talking about how, oh, the jiu-jitsu's not that important. I can't believe you have to learn to fall. You have to learn to fall. Yes, you know what? That was all part of it. It was all part of the training, all part of the plan, all part of the process that created what we just saw this past Sunday. Tua Tagovailoa, 28 completions, 45 attempts, 466 yards, 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception. One interception, granted, it was not a throw that I would have liked him to make, although I will say that the defensive back definitely pushed off against Braxton Berrios on that jump ball, so make of that what you will. It is what it is. 466 yards. That is right up there with some of the best quarterbacks in NFL history, including one Dan Marino, who was the guy in third place for most yards thrown in a season opener. Tua Tagovailoa now sits firmly in the 4th spot in all of NFL history. And that is something that he seems to be doing a lot of lately. He seems to be finding himself in elite company in a lot of different categories as of late. That is not something that is a fluke. That is not something that is just a one-off. Tua has been doing this ever since last season, ever since he got with Mike McDaniel, ever since he got with this new offense. And I also want to point out, this is not a depleted Chargers defense that absolutely tore him up last year. This is a full-strength Chargers defense, including Joey Bosa, including Khalil Mack, including Derwin James, who, by the way, Tyreek Hill just absolutely tortured all game long. Derwin James. Everybody was talking about, oh, Derwin James is so much better than Javon Holland. Derwin James got schooled by Tyreek Hill. And by the way, let me just remind everybody here. Tyreek Hill, 11 receptions, 215 yards. And 2 of the touchdowns that Tua threw. 19 and a half yards per reception. And he caught 11 passes. You don't get those kind of numbers by accident, guys. You just don't. Those are not numbers that you get by accident. That is an incredible performance. And also, I got to keep bringing it up. On 3rd down, Tua has been phenomenal, especially in the second half of the game. There was one play specifically where the Dolphins were on 2nd down, and Tua threw a pass that was intended for Savon Ahmed. Savon Ahmed caught the pass initially. He got slammed into the ground, and he dropped the football. People on the Chargers side of things were saying that's a fumble. It's a touchdown with the recovery, and ultimately it was determined that Savon Ahmed did not make a football move, and so it was not going to be labeled as a fumble and a touchdown. So the Dolphins got lucky there, I guess you could say, but nevertheless, all the momentum was in the Chargers' favor. If y'all need to get some kind of insight on this, you can go check out Emmanuel Acho's tweet on Twitter, by the way. It is a phenomenal breakdown, basically the better version of what I'm summarizing for you here. But the fact that Tua took all that momentum that the Chargers had and just flipped it on its head. You have Khalil Mack bearing down on you. He escapes the sack, steps up in the pocket, and for all that talk about lack of arm strength, he doesn't have an NFL arm. He has a noodle of an arm. Why is he throwing left-handed? Blah, bitty, blah, bitty, blah. We've heard it so many times. Tua throws a dart right into Tyreek Hill's arms. It was a beautiful play from start to finish. And again, that is not something that happens by accident. That is something that you just have that instinct. Tua Tagovailoa is the franchise quarterback for the Miami Dolphins moving forward. At this point, I don't feel like there's anything left that he has to prove. There is nothing left that he has to show except for the fact that he's just not going to get hurt. And you know what, guys? That is something that you're just going to have faith on. That is just something that you're just going to have to hope that nothing happens to him, because injuries happen to everybody. I would like to point out to everybody one more time. In 2022, I think the number is that there were only 3 starting quarterbacks that played all the games for their teams, for their respective teams last year. 3! There are 32 teams in the NFL, and 29 of them at some point had to turn to their backup quarterback and say, you're going to have to play a little bit. So for Tua, who only missed 4 games, that's not the worst thing in the world, guys. It's not. He came back. He did what he could. It was a fantastic game. If it sounds like that my voice is a little bit fried as I'm recording this, it kind of is. When I was at the Biscayne Bay Brewery, I was with a bunch of the other 5 Reasons Sports crew. I was watching the game. I was freaking out along with everybody else. And I'll talk about some of the other stuff that I was freaking out about. But watching Tua just march down the field, it seemed like nothing could stop him. It seemed like nothing could stop him. And even while that was happening, even while Tua was lighting up the Chargers secondary, I was still complaining. Mind you, not about Tua per se. It was more about the fact that Mike McDaniel was just slipping back into his old habits. He had sworn up and down that he was going to have a stronger commitment to the run game. But it turned out he just went ahead and let Tua do everything all over again. As a reminder, Tua threw 45 passes in that game against the Chargers. As far as the running backs went, it's not even running backs. Like, I'll give you the list here. Raheem Mostert, 10 carries for 37 yards, 3.7 yards per carry, and a touchdown. So he was the first one who scored for the Dolphins. And Raheem Mostert, again, I think he's just fine. I think he's going to do exactly what he needs for this team. But it seems to me like what he needs to do for this team is not a whole lot. It really doesn't. I think Mike McDaniel is just going to keep doing what he's doing as long as it works, and for better or worse. Hopefully it never comes to the worst part. But that would explain why the Dolphins really never went out of their way to dump everything into getting Jonathan Taylor. They never went out of their way to throw a whole bag at Dalvin Cook. They never went out of their way to do everything humanly possible to make sure that they got their hands on Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, whoever you want to throw out there. All these names that they were rumored to be interested in. And ultimately, what did Raheem Mostert get? 10 carries for 37 yards. What about the rest of them? Jeff Wilson obviously is on IR, so we don't know when he's going to come back. Devon Achane was inactive for this game, so he didn't even play. He wasn't there. He wasn't available to pick on. Chris Brooks, who apparently was available, but he didn't get a ball either. He didn't get a single carry. So let me tell you who did. Savon Ahmed, 3 carries, 11 yards, also averaging 3.7 yards a carry. So waste of time on that one. And then finally, who's the guy who did most of the work, quote unquote, running the football? Of all people, it was Eric Ezukanma. 2 carries, 17 yards, 8.5 a carry. One of them, he just straight up took a handoff out of the backfield. One of them was a reverse, and the other one was just, I'm going to play running back now. That's what it was. Eric Ezukanma. So I'll give him credit for that. It was a fantastic way of getting things done. So honestly, I'm trying to get all my thoughts in together because I have so many things that I want to talk about. And it was just such an amazing experience to watch that with a whole bunch of other Dolphins fans. I will say this. I'll go here. Here's where I'll put my negatives, okay? Here's where I'll put the negatives. If there's one thing that I'm concerned about at this point, it is Vic Fangio's ability to coach a run defense. And the reason I say that is because I had people in my mentions saying that I need to chill out, that it's only the first drive of the season, that we're seeing that, it'll get better, Okay, listen, real quick. We were talking Vic Fangio as one of the best, if not the best, defensive coordinator in the NFL. The man who revolutionized NFL defense as we know it. We cannot, on one breath, talk up Vic Fangio as some superstar defensive coordinator, the man who is probably the most expensive defensive coordinator in the NFL, and then in the next breath say, it's just getting started. They're just kind of getting used to everything. No, I can't give that kind of a break to Vic Fangio. That's an excuse you can make for somebody like a Josh Boyer who has very little defensive coordinator experience. Vic Fangio has been doing this for decades at this point. He's been the guy who's been running defenses for the NFL for many, many, many years. I cannot give Vic Fangio that kind of a pass. But I will say this, and this is a very interesting theory, and I'm sure that on Pulse of Fins Nation on Tuesday we'll talk about it. Is it possible, maybe just maybe, that Vic Fangio decided we'll go ahead and we'll let the Chargers run all over them so that way Justin Herbert can't be the one to do the damage to the Dolphins? Because I will give the Dolphins credit for one thing. As much as frustrated as I was with their inability to stop the run, the Chargers did almost nothing when it comes to actually passing the ball. So the stat line for Justin Herbert, I'll just give it to you real quick. It's pedestrian. It's honestly, for Justin Herbert, it's kind of low. 23 completions, 33 attempts, 228 yards, and a touchdown. Now, the rushing, on the other hand, that's a different story. Austin Eckler, 16 carries, 117 yards, 7.3 yards a carry. Josh Kelly, 16 carries, 91 yards, 5.7 yards a carry, and a touchdown. Justin Herbert even ran in for a touchdown. 5 carries, 18 yards for him. So running the football, they had no issues whatsoever. But when it came down to it, when it came down to the last second and the Dolphins needed to make a stop, they got it. And you know how they got it? They forced Justin Herbert to try to finish the game for them. And the Chargers couldn't do it. The Chargers couldn't do it. I just find it so amusing that we're looking at this 6'5" behemoth of a man with blonde hair and blue eyes and looking at him with this rocket of an arm and saying, this is the pinnacle of NFL quarterbackdom. Yeah, if all you care about is how he looks. Yeah, he's a physical specimen. He is the dude that everybody out there wishes they looked like. He is a handsome guy. He is a good-looking guy. He's got height that I wish I had. He's got muscles coming out of his earlobes. And when it comes to the fourth quarter, he comes down smaller than a dust mite. He always blows it. He always blows it. Justin Herbert had an opportunity to end the game in the Chargers' favor. And instead, he proceeds to get intentional grounding, thanks to Mike McDaniel stressing it a lot to the referees, granted. But Justin Herbert threw it to nobody, getting intentional grounding, which gave them a loss of 10 yards and a loss of down. He then got sacked twice, and that was the end of the story, man. So we're talking about Justin Herbert, this incredible quarterback, this record-breaking quarterback, and he gets all these numbers, he gets all these stats, he gets all this stuff that everybody drools over. But when it comes right down to it, this game, if it's kept close, who is the guy that I'm going to choose to get me the win every single time? It's not Justin Herbert, folks. Tua Tagovailoa is one of the most clutch quarterbacks that I have seen in a very long time. Because Tua had opportunities to blow it. Tua had his moments too where I was complaining and saying, what is he looking at right there? But you know what? That comes with, and I can't believe I'm saying this, a gunslinger mentality. Tua's a gunslinger, folks. He is. But he's a gunslinger who's also a sniper. Do you have any idea how dangerous that can be for any NFL defense? Never mind a full-strength Chargers defense that absolutely tortured Tua all last year with less players that they had at their disposal. What Tua did against the Chargers is something that should set the tone for the entire rest of the season. There is not an offense problem on this team. If anything, and I'm still going to wait and see what happens with this, because just because it happened against the Chargers does not necessarily mean it's going to happen against other teams. They have the Patriots coming up next week. If there's any issue, it is either defense or special teams. And I'll go ahead and end it with this, because I know I've been just going off about the offense all this time, and I'm so excited about what's going to happen the rest of the season. But if we're going to talk about something, special teams, Jason Sanders almost gave me an aneurysm. He missed the extra point and made it so that all the Chargers had to do to win the game was kick a field goal. And thankfully, Justin Herbert is Justin Herbert, and he did what he always does in the fourth quarter. He found a way to blow it. He found a way to screw it up. So there's a black cat running around the Chargers franchise in the fourth quarter. I don't know who always lets it out of its cage and decides to go give a nice little foot rub to Justin Herbert. But my God, man, the Dolphins came up big when it counted. Jalen Phillips, Zach Sealer, and big, by the way, I should also mention this. As far as defense goes, so many Chargers fans were looking at Keenan Allen versus Kader Kohu and thinking that Kohu was going to get rocked. that Keenan Allen was going to make Kader Kohu look like a fool because who the heck is Kader Kohu? I never heard of Kader Kohu. You guys got Jalen Ramsey on IR and Xavier Howard's old and washed up. We're not worried about nobody named Kader Kohu. Y'all should be scared of somebody named Kader Kohu, and I bet now you are. You know now why Dolphins fans call him Darth Kader. This guy can play football. He's willing to tackle. He's instinctive. He can cover. He does everything that you could ask a cornerback to do, and then some. And by the way, getting that sack on Justin Herbert right at their own goal line, that was nuts. I did not see that coming, and I don't think anybody in the entire Dolphins nation had Kader Kohu as the guy getting the first sack for the Miami Dolphins on their bingo card. Nobody saw that coming. So you know what? As much as I want to complain about the run defense, as much as I want to complain about special teams, that game was a game that I am going to look forward to looking back on and watching it all over again, which, by the way, I have to, because I have to also mention real quick, you know who didn't give up any sacks on Sunday? The Dolphins, which means that in spite of the fact that Teron Armstead was listed out with his injuries, was in spite of the fact that Austin Jackson was starting at right tackle against Joey Bosa, who everybody knows is possibly one of the best pass rushers in modern NFL history at this point. Modern NFL. Gotta emphasize that. Modern NFL, Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa is dangerous. And Austin Jackson held his own. Tua didn't get sacked once. He got pressured a few times. Gotta give it that. But Tua did not get sacked a single time all game long. So Austin Jackson must have held up pretty darn good against Joey Bosa. I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card either. So, ladies and gentlemen, Fins Nation, be excited. Because if this is the kind of offense that we're going to get again all season long, these guys have not missed a beat. These guys have not lost a step. If anything, they've taken 2 steps forward. Because, again, this is the same defense that pretty much put their entire season to a screeching halt. We thought the 49ers did that? Nah. The Chargers ruined the momentum the Dolphins had. And you know what they just did? They put up 36 points on them and sent the Chargers home on the road. What a beautiful way to start the season, y'all. I can't wait to see the rest of it. So thank you all so much for listening. I am so excited for what's going to be coming up. The next episode of Fins Nation will air on Wednesday morning, and Pulse of Fins Nation will be live Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. as always. Big thank you to Biscayne Bay Brewing. Big thank you to PrizePicks.com. Big thank you to You Break Will Fix for continuing to support this show and the network. We will see you all Wednesday for another episode of Fins Nation.